Welcome to On the Level, broadcasting from the Blue Ocean Network studios here in Beijing. My name is Fergus Thompson. Now, as almost anyone who uses the internet is well aware of at this stage, an online charity campaign called the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge has taken the virtual world by storm over the past few weeks. But its effects haven't just been virtual, they've been felt in the real world too. It's been phenomenally successful in raising hundreds of millions of dollars in funding and awareness of a relatively rare but devastating illness known variously as ALS, Lou Gehrig's or Motor Neuron Disease, depending on which part of the world you live in. The challenge emerged in the United States earlier this summer, although exactly how and where is still in dispute, and there are a number of variations. But essentially, it involves the protagonist, stroke victim, being filmed as a bucket of ice water is tipped over his or her head and then posting the video online, usually on Facebook, or avoiding that fate completely by donating a sum of money to an ALS charity. The individual then publicly challenges 2 or 3 other named people to do the same. In practice, most people actually do make a donation as well as taking the cold shower. The campaign really took off, however, when big-name celebrities, ranging from Bill Gates of Microsoft and Tim Cook of Apple to Lindsay Lohan and even Oprah, became involved. It spread at lightning speed right around the world, including to China, where celebrities were also keen at success. Now here, a relatively little-known Beijing-based charity, the China Dolls Center for Rare Disorders, or CCRD as it's also known, has been the main beneficiary. But in China, as elsewhere, the viral campaign hasn't been without its controversy. Well, to find out a little bit more about the Ice Bucket campaign as it's played out here in China and that organisation, the CCRD, I'm delighted to be joined in studio today by Zhou Shuang. Zhou Shuang is a programme manager at the China Dolls Center for Rare Diseases. Zhou Shuang, welcome to On the Level.
Thank you, Fergus.
Now, before we look at the actual Ice Bucket Challenge, which everybody knows about at this stage right across the world, and what happened here in China, tell us a little bit more about your organisation, China Dolls Center for Rare Disorder, CCRD, what it was set up for, why it was set up.
Okay, so China Dolls Center for Rare Disorders, known as CCRD, was founded 6 years ago by 2 individuals with rare diseases. And one of them, of course, we all know is Yu Wang. She's an individual with osteogenesis imperfecta, which also known as brittle bones. China Dolls Center for Rare Disorders aims at moving social stigma, improving social security, and pushing legislations, just to work for the equal rights for people with rare diseases.
Right, so you're lobbying for this group, as you say, people with rare diseases, and it's not just, it's various diseases. In fact, ALS is one of the ones that you do amongst others.
Yes.
What is the definition, or is there a definition for a rare disease?
Well, there's no clear definition in China, and from what I know, it's a condition or disease affects less than 200,000 people in the U.S. Which is 1 in 1,500, and in Japan. Is another definition, and I think in Europe it's 1 in 2,000. So it's different, by countries.
Right. Now, as I mentioned, until now, another sort of small, not very well-known charity in China, perhaps. Things have obviously changed recently. But before the last couple of weeks, what were the main challenges that your organisation faced in raising both money and awareness of these diseases? Because by definition, they're not that common.
Yes. I mean, raising money is not our focus. I mean, they started, Yu Wang and her friend started with, actually no fundings, and they have no paid employees, and it lasts like I think it's for 1 year, and that's when it first started. And we also started programs with no funding at all. So money is, not the problem. Of course, money is important, but we always think that raising awareness is like the more important thing to do.
That's your prime goal. Right. And what are the challenges in getting people aware of these conditions then? What are the difficulties?
Well, because it's so rare, I mean, sometimes it affects only a small group of people, and sometimes the general public people don't know what that is, and we spend a lot of time to explain what rare diseases are, and what kind of disease is called rare diseases, like what is osteogenesis imperfecta, what is hemophilia, and that's one of the difficulties.
Right, so simply telling people what these diseases are.
Right.
And for the people that you're working for and lobbying for, what difficulties particularly do they face in general life, and also their families?
Well, most of them, they don't have medical insurance, so the burdens always falls on the family, and sometimes the burden is so heavy that it's way over than a family can carry. And there's there's limited professional practitioners, and some diseases they can only diagnosed or treated in certain hospitals by certain practitioners in certain cities, and it's really hard for people to get to. Sometimes it's hard for people to actually go to those cities to get treated.
So these families and these people may have to go to another city, so they've got travel costs on top of the costs of whatever medicines they're using and the costs of hospitalization.
Yes.
Right. And the one of these diseases, as I mentioned, you mentioned OI. This is osteogenesis imperfecta, and you also one of these diseases is ALS. This one, which is being promoted by the Ice Bucket Challenge at the moment. Just how much awareness is there in China of this disease? Because in the United States, most people will have heard of Lou Gehrig's disease because of the baseball player who suffered from it. In the UK, it's known as Motor Neuron Disease. Is it as well known, or are people as aware of this particular disease in China?
Well, because it's so small of a group in China that there's little awareness in the general public. But when I say it's a small group, I'm referred to the prevalence. But but the number in China is very big, and we have connection to some patient groups or self-help groups, and they have like thousands of people in the group, and that's one of them. So
a very small percentage of the population in China, because of its huge population, still translates into a large number of sufferers and families.
Yes.
The Ice Bucket Challenge, as I said, people are very well aware of this viral campaign that's gone around the world. How did it come to China, and how did it come to the CCRD? Well,
the first time when I heard about the Ice Bucket Challenge was on our half-year meetings with our board members, and one of the members mentioned the Ice Bucket Challenge, and he was actually talking about Bill Gates taking the challenge, and that was the first time I heard about it. And the next day, Mr. Bei called Yu Wang, our director, Mr. Bei from the Sina Weibo,
right.
Yes, called Yu.
This is a very big company here in China, in social media company, yeah?
Yes, and we, just talking about doing something for our Chinese people, because all the donations going to the ALS Association in the United States.
I see. So people in China were actually donating on this challenge, but to the organization in America.
Well, I actually don't know, where people actually donate before that, and we just think that it's a good opportunity to raise public awareness of rare diseases, and also just call for donations for our Chinese people. So that's how it started. I think it's on August 17th.
And this is incredibly quick how things have happened. So this must have been a huge, well, there was a huge response. What was it like for you over these past 10 days or 2 weeks? Because it went from sort of very few people knowing about you to appearing everywhere in the media and being talked about on social media. Just tell us what it's been like for that period. Talk us through it.
Okay, so that's how it started. We talked about, and I think on August 19th, Mr. Wang Sicong donated a really large amount of money to our organization. And
he's one of China's wealthiest men.
Yes, and that's things just went crazy from that moment, and we keep receiving a lot of calls from media, from ALS patients, from people with rare diseases that they don't even know what disease they have because it's so rare, and they just call for help. And we just it's a lot of attention from the public and from everyone else.
How did you manage to cope with this? Because you're not that many people working in the organization, and suddenly you've got calls. Was it sort of 24 hours a day?
Yes, almost, almost 20 hours a day, and we just kind of take a pause on our previous work, and we divided into 3 groups. So one group is dealing with the media and public relations, and one group is working with patient groups, and people with rare diseases, and another group just doing. Trying to manage our Weibo and all the things that are coming out of our organization.
Sure, communications with the press and with the public. Now, the people will have seen this challenge on American television and European television. Is it any different in the way that the challenge has been carried out in China? Because things often are a little bit different in China.
Well, it's just so quick because I'm actually surprised with the speed that is spread in China, and for myself, I personally never imagined that it can go so big and it's going so quick in China. So I don't know really what happened in the States or in other countries, but it's totally a surprise for me.
You've never seen anything like it.
I know.
You mentioned Mr. Wang, that tycoon who donated a large amount of money. I think it was about a million yuan or something like that. So
yes.
$160,000 something. What about the other celebrities involved? Because we've seen other people, from film stars to people who are famous in television to sports people getting involved. Let's just take a look at some of those Chinese celebrities. We've got a compilation here of some of China's most famous people carrying out the Ice Bucket Challenge as it goes down in China. As you can see, almost a complete rundown, A to Z of Chinese celebrityhood carrying out the Ice Bucket Challenge there. As usual, there have been accusations on social media and the press, that some of these people are just doing it for self-promotion, that they want to stay in the public limelight. Is that something that you feel has some justification?
Well, actually, I think it's important for those celebrities or public figures to speak up because they have followers and they have a huge social impact. And people actually, go to our Weibo because of them, and they go to our Weibo to explore to explore our organization and to explore what rare disorders is, what rare disorders are, and what ALS is. So it's really, I think it's a good thing for the social impact because it can help raise the public awareness of rare diseases.
Right. So whatever the motivation of the people, the result for you is a good result anyway.
Right. I mean, it doesn't matter, how much money they donate. It doesn't matter who actually involved it, who actually soaked with the ice water.
Yes.
It's important that why we do it, for whom we do it.
Right. So the CCRD, as you mentioned, was originally set up actually not for ALS, and ALS may not be even the majority of people involved in it, but for another disease. Why then do you think that CCRD was chosen to be the beneficiary by this gentleman in Sina Weibo? Why did he go to you? There are other ALS organizations in China, are there?
Yeah, yes. And, CCRD started work with people with osteogenesis imperfecta, and then after 6 years of history, we serve over 30 rare diseases. So I mean, ALS has a low prevalence. I think with motor neuron disease and DMD and SMA, those population with about 20 individuals. So we aim to raise the awareness for all the rare diseases,
right.
People with rare diseases.
Right. So while this campaign in the United States and Europe or around the world has sort of focused on ALS, it has branched off in other directions in other countries. But you see it as a good opportunity to help not just one disease, but all of these rare diseases and the people who are suffering from them. Yes,
because sometimes the needs are common.
Right. As always with internet phenomena, and this is not just something in China, but right across the world, you have some big phenomena like this, which everybody is watching and everybody's saying this is great, and then you have a backlash afterwards. You have people complaining about things in the press or on the social media, or saying, as I mentioned there earlier about the celebrities, for example. Have you seen some sort of what sort of criticism or controversy have you seen in the press and from social media sites?
Well, it's for me. I think sometimes people are focused on the money, like how much you've got, and how are you gonna spend the money, and how much percentage you're gonna use it on people with ALS.
Right.
I mean, sometimes we need to plan to use the money to the right place. I mean, we need to research where the real needs are,
right.
Where the people are, and how do we deliver the services, or how do we respond to the real needs. And sometimes it takes time. And we want that people focus on the group, on the people, and on how help us to meet their needs, to respond to their needs. So I think that's the important thing to do.
So, as we mentioned earlier, this has been very, very quick. It wasn't something you expected. A huge amount of funds and interest has come in, and you've got to think about this and decide where it's going to go, and this is something that takes time and planning. Right. One thing that comes up very often in China when discussing charities is transparency. People, again, online and sometimes the media here, talking about what happens when money goes into a charity. How can it be followed? How can they find out, where did my 10 or 100 yuan go? How is that addressed by your organization? Let's not just talk about charities in general. How do you do that?
Well, we do. We have published information disclosure on our website. We have a monthly report on the income, and a quarterly report on the expenses. So you can find all the reports online on our website. So we are doing our best to let people know where we spend our money, and so I think it's very important to the transparency is very important, and we are trying to let people know that everything is open in our organization. You can see everything, what we do, where we expense the money. So
now the transparency as to where things go as well. How about communication? Because again, sometimes the problem with charities in China is, and particularly ones that are linked to the government, tends to be that they don't seem to communicate with the public very well. There are accusations of this and that and the other, and sometimes they're not true, but the way that they react. You seem to be an organization that is quite expert at dealing with the public. Have you been trained in this, or is it just the sort of the ethos of the organization?
Well, we're trying to get assistance from professional a PR company and we are. I think the communication is very important, and we are always open, and we are always trying to initiate the conversation. So it's not I think sometimes it's not about others. It's about us. If we show the genuine, we're genuine and we want to talk, I think we can get really good response from others.
There is, to a certain extent, and you can deal with this from your particular point of view, just some sort of sense of mistrust in charities in general. Do you think in China this is because of some scandals that have hit the press over certain organizations, or do you think it's something to do with the way charities are viewed in Chinese society?
Well, CCRD started as a grassroots self-help organization, and it started by 2 individuals with rare diseases. And now in our organization, the people I work with, they're either fresh out of school, they're or graduate students, and or either they have previous experience in non-profit organizations. And when I joined CCRD, I just finished my master's program. So
this was your first job?
Yes. And we are a group of people, meet here just for just want to change the world, want to, create a more equal, a more equal world for everyone. So I think, it's we don't have any, government background, or we don't have any, there's no public figures in our organization when it first started. Maybe someone's famous, maybe from now on, but now before.
Yeah.
So we didn't have much attention from the public. So I think the people are different, and we really want to work something out. We really want to create an equal world.
Right. So it's the way that that the organizations deal with the public you feel is very important in this.
Yes.
Right. In terms of you mentioned the government there, no sort of government input or help. What is the legislation like in China for charities? I mean, does the government regulate how you set up a charity? Does it regulate how you must disclose, etc., or is it sort of very much hands off?
Well, I'm not an expert on this, and I know that we need to have monthly information disclosure just on our incomes and quarterly report on our expenses, and we have annual audition that auditing company going to come in and see if we have a if the yes, we have to do the ratings and evaluations every year. So I think it's quite restrict for nonprofit organizations or charities in China.
All right. So people should realize that there are rules and the regulations that you have to follow, and that these are implemented by the government. So there is some sort of follow-up as to what you're doing, apart from you doing this voluntarily yourselves.
Yes.
And bringing in the government again, I know that you've been lobbying for these people quite vociferously, and you did mention that it can be very costly for a family who has somebody who suffers one of these rare diseases, because they may have to travel, they have to spend a lot of money on expenses, on medicines, and the normal results of having a sort of a chronic illness. What do you think that the government could do to improve the situation? What would you like to see representatives of the public doing?
So we submit proposals to the NPC, CPPCC every year.
Chinese sort of parliament, the equivalent of a parliament.
Yes, and every year, and we want to see some medical insurance for this group of people.
You mentioned medical insurance before, and you said medical insurance doesn't cover that. You're talking here about public insurance, the sort of insurance that everybody has from their work or from the city they live in. Is that right?
Yes, yes, and we're trying to push legislations, just and the medical insurance, and if it's in some level it's covered by the country, it won't be that much of a burden for the family, and also the trainings. We want to see the government funding for the trainings of practitioners especially in local hospitals. That would be largely decrease the traveling expenses for the families.
Right. Would these medicines or these treatments not be very expensive? Would this not be a burden on a government which is already says that it's spending a lot of money on health insurance?
I think we can always find a way to to solve this problem, and not all the medical expenses are expensive. Sometimes it's not take osteogenesis imperfecta for example, and the medicine people people with OI use, if some senior women with a bone condition, they can use that kind of medicine, but because it's not on the list of the what conditions the medicine treats on it's not on the manual, so it's not so when people with OI use that kind of medicine, which can help the condition, but they're not covered, and sometimes just for legal or technical reasons, they're not covered by the insurance. So that's we want to just trying to do some work on that.
There is a phenomenon in terms of money raised by charities where they say that if one charity gets a lot of money, people give a certain amount of money during the year or whatever, somebody else is going to lose out. Is that something that you think is an argument? It's something that's been raised in the UK about one particular charity suddenly becomes the flavour of the month, and then all the other ones say, "Oh no, we're not going to get it. We're not going to get our targets this month." Is that something that worries charities here?
No, I personally don't think so, because someone donates money to our organization doesn't mean he or she doesn't donate to another organization. It depends on the donors, not us.
Right. So it's outside of your hands if that happens anyway.
Right.
In terms more generally of personal story, you went to the United States after you graduated here, and you spent time studying there, and you came back to China. Why did you decide to work in this particular sector? Not this particular organization, but a sector, an NGO sector, and one which was helping people out. Yeah,
I think it's mostly for the team, for the people that I work with, and it's really a lovely group. And we can always decide how to do our work. There's the communication is very good, and I think everyone's genuine, and we wanna we hold the same dream. We wanna create an equal world, and this is our dream, and we work for that dream to come true. So that's really a good working environment, and a good relationship with my coworkers, and we do actually help people. So that's the important thing.
Many Chinese parents who see their sons and daughters going off to Europe or to the United States or to Australia to study dream of them coming back and being a successful business people or scientists or bringing in lots of money. Were your family happy with the choice that you made?
Well, I guess so. Well, I think I'm lucky. I guess it's not important for both me and my parents. How much money I make is important. That we're happy. I'm happy. So.
And what would your advice be for a young Chinese person who is contemplating at the end of their studies, at the end of the university, what sort of career? What would you say to persuade them to go into the area that you're talking about, the NGO, the area that you are in at the moment?
Well, I wouldn't say I would persuade them to, to come to this area. I think, just explore things. Just explore things out and keep an open mind and just try a few different things and see where your interest lies.
Good advice, I'm sure, for anybody thinking what they're going to do with their career. Zhou Shuang, thank you very much for coming on The Level.
Thank you.